man. And the man is specifically mentioned because generally women are very, very lenient with children generally, whether a male or female. And generally women are very compassionate. And that is the way it is called. In Arabic, when they say ummu, ummu is, they say ummul qura, ummul kitab. That is Fatihatul Kitab is called, the Fatiha we recite is called ummul kitab. It's like the basis is like ummu, literally is where al-marji' or al-marji'u, where somebody goes back to. That you always go back to that root. So generally in Arabic, ummu, in fact, literally means that they are supposed to be very close to children, whether male or female. And most times, if you look at the Islamic, the Allah's ruling, that women generally stay at home, except when it is necessary for them to go out. And I say women in Islam are well respected. They are well considered. If you go to the market, for instance, in this our town, you see mostly, maybe 95% is male that you see. That is from this part of the world, which is the Islamic teaching. So women in Islam, as part of the culture Islam is concerned, they are highly elevated. Ideally, they are not supposed to suffer. We all know that we are supposed to provide for them everything they need. But let me put a caveat. Every basic thing that they need, because that basic is very important. So because extra things are like sadaqah, is jara, really the house they live in, what they wear, and what they need to live their life at least comfortably in the house. So then one will now be surprising, except that the person that doesn't know Islam, that will now say the Islam is the one that is oppressing women. And if you look at a hadith that talks about women, even the Quran, it is not as it talks about men. There is no hadith that is talking about male children as what I'm saying. But then you are saying the hadith like that, it will be combined with male and female. But the female children, they are treated specifically, they are treated separately. That attention, special attention should be paid to them. So if you look at it in Islam, the women, like something that some people don't want to hear, that if you have a father and mother, the Islam pays a lot of emphasis on the mother, to the extent that we pray for them, to the extent that what you give them materially, the way you pray to them, the way you have lenience, you are lenient with them, the women are treated separately. So when I say that, it's because maybe some people do not know what Islam teaching is, and that's why they say the Islam oppresses women because of the hijab. So like this hadith is saying that there is no man, because men are the ones that will go out. They will go and fend, go and look for food, go and look this thing. And perhaps by the time they come back, they are angry. Perhaps they are not really most times at home. And of course, this is not the adab of Islam. The adab of Islam is that as much as possible, a man should be close to home. A man should be close to his family. And most especially, a man should be very close to the female children. As compared to male, we are not saying one should discard the male. The special attention should be paid to female. That there is no man, there is no Muslim, that a lady, his daughter, grows up. We say it grows up because the minimum for ones to earn this reward that Prophet has mentioned is that that man or the woman must have trained, nurtured that lady until the lady has reached the age of bulugh. It is not somebody that trained a female child up to 5 years or 6 years. So it's a man or female or a woman that trains the female children until they have reached the age at which perhaps you can say, okay, they go to their husband, and that husband will continue the management. So this is still to show the emphasis that Islam really pays on female children. So for ones to fall under this hadith, you must have trained them until you now perhaps take the responsibility to primarily to another man. Now not take care of them because of the hadith of Imam Muslim that the Prophet mentioned that man ala jaratay hatta tabluga ja'a yawm al-qiyamah ana wa ma'ahu wa dhamma Rasulullah asabi'ah. That whosoever, a man or female, now train 2 female children until they reach the age of balaga, when they can be transferred to another man who will continue the management. Not that you will stop, but then who will now primarily continue the management, that the person will come day of Qiyamah, myself, that is the Prophet ﷺ, and him will be like like partners like this, just to show that inshallah the person will enter the paradise. And this is what the hadith is saying. But if you look at this, the hadith, the Prophet, the ayah even in Quran has mentioned that, the culture of the Arab, I've mentioned it before, is that sometimes some of them will take female children to the grave. They will have dug the grave. When the woman, that day, in those days, there's no like ultrasound. Not like now that people do ultrasound and try to see the sex or the gender. So in those days, there's nothing like ultrasound. So because they don't know whether it's a female or male, so those Jahili people, by the time the woman is about to deliver, they will take her to a place where they have dug the grave. So if the woman gives us to a female this thing, this traditional birth attendant in those days, I'll take it. The woman give her to a female, they will dear in, they will bury the female child. So the Islam came out openly in Quran and is mentioned. So this has been abrogated. It has been led to conclusion by the Quran. But then as an extension that even after the women have given birth to children, then one should not be kind to them. If you have decided not to bury, you can kill somebody when he's alive. Somebody can be alive, but he's dead. So the Islam what addresses the two. Now you don't bury them physically, then do not bury them emotionally. Means that one should be as much as possible be kind to them. I want to tell us, this one, it applies to everybody. So we need to fight ourselves. I mentioned it then, that sometimes you might think that you are not really involved, but if you look at yourself, your inner soul, it's there. Maybe you might not mention it. In fact, up to the family of Imran alayhi salam is in Quran, like we know. فَلَمَّا وَضُعَتْهَا قَالَتْ رَبِّي إِنِّي وَضَعْتُهَا أُنْثَى وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا وَضَعَتْ. What did he say? وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَّرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. So this one is mentioned. This is what Allah has told us. That even those people that are pious, if you are not careful, you will alter some. Even if you don't alter it, it will be in your mind. But what the ulama have mentioned is that because some people, they are looking for male children, by the time they give out female children, they will have this feeling that this is a female child. So the ulama have mentioned as much as possible, even that is what you want, but you should not mention except that is good, better. And you have to be very, very kind to the child. As when you pray for the child, you are very close to them and things like that. Because there's one kisa, it is a story, and it is true, it's a live story that our ulama has brought. That there was one time a man in Arab Peninsula, and in fact the man is, they call it Ibn Hamza. That is the title of the poem. And it's something that happened. So it's a female that composed the poem to her husband. So the man married two wives, and one of them gave birth to a male child around the same time. And the other one gave birth to a female child. So that man, in fact, not most times, every time, he always enter upon the one that gave birth to the male child, and he abandoned the one that gave birth to the female child. So, and that wife, a very wise woman, now composed a poem that was related to that man. That what is the poem? I wrote it here. Damali Abi Hamza La Ya'atina. That what is the issue with our husband, the Abi Hamza? He doesn't come to us. He has abandoned us. That what he does is that most time he just stays there. And I mentioned this thing to us, I'll repeat it, last 2 weeks, that it is what we give us that we nurture and we incubate and we give you. And that is what the woman said. That what she said is that that this man, I believe, Abi Hamza, you are hungry, that we have not given birth to a male child for you. And he said that Allahi madhalka fi aidina. But you yourself, you know that I swear by Allah, what you are looking for, it is not in our hand. But the woman, the Zawjatu Abi Hamza, is composing a poem on behalf of other women. But you know, because it's not talking about herself alone, but you know that this thing is not in our hand. It's in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in fact, he now made a statement about that we rather will take what we are given. And he wants to give the women that they will take. They don't take it from another place. And he now said that we are indeed like a soil or like the land. You know what Allah has mentioned, that nisa'ukum harfun lakum fa'tu harfakum anna shi'tum. That your wife, the female one that are under you, harfun lakum, they are like tillage. Like till them the way Allah has commanded. So it's like a soil. So the woman is likening herself and other women to a soil or land. That is what you what you sow there, that is going to germinate. That's what the woman said. So that is for, so that the training, the nurturing, the kindness, the leniency should start from even when the child is given birth to, and not just when they have grown up. And in fact, I have a typical example in this our terrain. In fact, in this our hospital. There was one time I was with one of our female, a leader in this hospital, and she said that we were just discussing, and she said all the children in her family, that they are female children. And she was now telling me that this person is a director here, this person is a commissioner, this person is this, and it's a big woman. This person is this. That fact, the people certainly, they are envying them, that these are women, but then they have really succeeded. Then who says that a female cannot be better than a male child? So I think that's what the hadith is saying, just like ulama have mentioned. Now, the second hadith for today, we hope to recite the three hadith because they are saying almost the same thing. This one is from Jabir, the son of Abdullah, that the Prophet ﷺ said that man kana lahu thalathu banat, whoever has 3 children, yu'wihin, and he is very close to the female children, wa yakfihin, and he is enough for them. That is, you are sufficient for them, wa yarhamuhun, and you are merciful to them. It is this merciful that we want to talk about, just a little bit. فَقَدْ وَجَبَتْ لَهُ الْجَنَّةُ الْبَتَّةُ, that indeed Allah has made the Jannah that easy for him. Literally, that is compulsory, but what it means in the real sense is that it will be a reason for the person to be admitted to paradise of Qiyamah. So a man now said among the people, that what of a man that has 2 children, 2 female children? Because like me now, I have 1 female child. So am I not going, if you are kind to them, are you not going to be under this one? So a man that was present in time of Prophet now asked a question. Alhamdulillah that he asked a question, so that we know that what if a man now, a woman has 2 female children, that he or she has trained very well. And Prophet said, "Wathintay," that if you also have 2 female children and you train them very well, then you have entered. So the question will be, what of me? Somebody that has 1 female child. But if you look at the title of the hadith, that man ala jariyatain aw wahida, that whoever nurtures a male, a female, 2 female children, and 1 female child. But it is not in the hadith. So what the ulama have mentioned is that it is hoped that if somebody there perhaps has also asked a question, that what of 1 particular person, 1 female child, that perhaps Prophet would have also answered that it is yes. So if some Prophet mentioned 3, then somebody asked the what of 2, then nobody asked what of 1. So it is generally believed, consensus among ulama, that inshallah for somebody who trained a female child, perhaps inshallah Allah will also be merciful on that particular person. In any case, Allah will not, whatever you have done, however small it is, Allah will reward that particular person. But if you look at it, the hadith is talking about 3 things. The hadith is talking about the physical presence, and it's talking about the material presence. That is, for you to train them, you are very, very close to them. That's to the female children. I've mentioned it before, as much as possible, one should be just among the children. But then, as much as possible, one should be very, very close to the female children as much as possible and be very kind to them. And I'll give an example. The Prophet ﷺ was very close to, in fact, the Anbiya, the Prophet, they are generally called the Banat. That many of those prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they actually have plenty female children. And if you look at it, the ulama, in this life, nothing is by chance. It is decreed. It is a master plan by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send message to the mankind. And so the one that I even choose among human beings that are prophets, that are messengers, what I give them mostly is female children. I look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We know he has 7 children. How many of them are females? There are 4. So which ones outlive Prophet sallallahu? Albert, just 6 months. Is Fatima, radiallahu anha, and Prophet was very, very kind to Fatima. In fact, was very close to her. And I give us an example, or some example, very close to Fatima, and he revered Fatima. He respected Fatima. Radiallahu anha, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's the qissa that is available, is that one day, Fatima was coming. We all know this story. And Aisha, our mother, Anha said, the movement of Fatima is just like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That if you see Fatima moving at the back, you see her, that is just like Prophet sallam is coming. That the Fatima knocked at the door. By the time the Prophet sallam saw Fatima, he was seated. The Prophet sallam stood up from her bench or from her seat, his seat, and went and like when you embrace your female, right? He embraced Fatima, radiallahu anha, and he took Fatima and placed her on his own particular seat where he was sitting. And of course, Prophet Islam is like, somebody is coming out of respect, you gave her your own seat. So the ulama would mention that how many of the male or fathers do this? It's a form of respect. It's for you to show. In fact, there's another example that one day when the work was so much for Fatima in the house, he was married to Ali, she was married to Ali. The work was so much, and they just brought some, those people that they will bring that can be used as maid after the work. And Ali, he knew how close Fatima was to the Prophet ﷺ. So he could not go to ask that he didn't have money, that's Ali, to get a maid to be helping Fatima in the house. Now he now told Fatima, why don't you, he told Fatima, I think you need maid to help you. Because using style to ask her to go to her father, we need maid in the house. Then Fatima said, you don't have money, you don't have anything to get maid for us. And Ali now came out to pull that. Why don't you go to your father, to your daddy, the Prophet ﷺ, and ask him that he should give you a maid out of those that have just been captured. And of course, listening to her husband, Fatima radiallahu anha, went. So by the time he got to the Prophet ﷺ, he got there, he didn't meet the Prophet ﷺ at home. It was in the night. So she went back, and they said the Prophet ﷺ came back in the night. By the time he came back, then the Prophet ﷺ was informed by the wife that your daughter came around. I know ordinarily you say it is late. In fact, they said the Prophet ﷺ was quite very tired when he came back from where he went to. Ordinarily you want to sleep and next day you want to go. But the Prophet ﷺ, immediately he heard that, he went to, in the night, he went to the house of Fatima and Ali, knocked at the door, and of course the discussion continues like we know. That is when he gave Aisha some things to be doing by the adhkar. So when the message from that hadith that he respected Fatima, he loved Fatima so much, he was very close to her, physically, emotional, and everything wise. And that this is what the fathers ideally should copy. I think that in fact, there are a lot of examples. Well, the Prophet is the embodiment of good character, training, and the person who can emulate. In fact, there's another example, plenty of examples, but this example we just use to cap it up. That one time, the Prophet came to the house of Fatima. This is to show that the ulama have mentioned that, yes, the minimum required to enter this hadith is to nurture them until perhaps you give them out for marriage. But then it doesn't stop there. That even after they are married, we should not discard them. There are some women, some men, or some family, what they do, they are just waiting for the female child to get married so that they can lay her off as if she was a body. So after she's married, perhaps they don't even care about her again. That this is not the principle of Islam. Look at the best of mankind. What even after Fatima has not married, the Prophet was still very close to her, so that he knows things that bothers her. In fact, that day he went, he knocked at the door of Fatima and Ali, radiallahu anhuma, and he didn't meet. Where's your husband? So Fatima told the Prophet that I had issues with Ali, my husband, and so he left angrily. Now the message from that is that even if you are the most pious man in the world, after Prophet there can family issue it will always come. So it's not that whether you are pious or not pious, we are human beings, we're not trained together. That by the time you come back, husband and wife, there will be issue. It's how it's resolved that is most important. So that he told Prophet Ali, he has been angry, and so he went out, he left the house. So then Prophet went in search of Ali, and he went. By the time he got there, of course we know this story, that is why Ali is being called Abu Turab, or Abu Turab by the Prophet, that the father of the soil. That's the kissa. The Prophet went and he saw Ali in the mosque, and Ali was lying down, and his body was covered with soil. And Prophet used leg to just like kicking, just to play. The kum ya Abu Turab, oh the father of soil, just stand up, just joking with him. And Prophet resolved the issues that happened between them. Now this story It's just to show how the Prophet was very kind to Fatima, the only surviving female child of his after him, despite the fact that she was married. And of course, the ulama, this is your wihinna, that one should be close to whoever has 3 female children and he is very close to them physically, and a man should be close to female even when they are married. But if and you are enough for them financially, you try your best. Whatever you can do, you give them. And you are very merciful to them. On this, there's a story. It's good to always get a story from our past predecessors. Indeed, there are best stories in Islam. Somebody was saying that Muslims, we have lost our legacy. That what we read now is Maxwell, we read is maybe Trump, we read maybe Obama legacy, we read these people. But then we have treasures that we have left behind. A lot of important stories that will guide you, that will what, make you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Most of this Maxwell and most of these things, story, Aristotle, another thing, they have to do with how you live your mundane life, how you live to get money, how you live to be somebody who is very highly revered in the community. But the story in Islam, most times, that has to do with the Prophet and the Sahaba and all those Anbiya, they are how you will be very close to Allah and how you will run away from this dunya. Unfortunately, we have been brainwashed. That is now the other way around. So when you start a story about this life, people, well, it's in Surah Rum, that when you ask them about this dunya, they know. But when you ask them about the akhirah in this sense is the story of Islam. So ideally, a Muslim should know the story about Islam, the history of Islam. That's the case I wanted to say is that a woman came around, for instance, that one should be lenient with them, to the house of the Aisha, radiallahu anha. And by the time she came, this woman was very poor. She was very, very hungry. And she came around with 2 of her daughters. And when she came, in fact, she came asking Aisha. And Aisha said, Ma indi shay'an, or ma indi shay'un, illa tamra. In another narration, illa thalatha tamara. That I didn't have then except 3 dates in the house. That Aisha searched the whole house. We only got 3 dates. And by the time she came around, she gave the woman. So that the woman can take 1, the 2 of the daughters can also take 1. So the daughters take, the woman gave the daughters 2. Then it remains 1. As the woman was about putting that one in her mouth, then the daughters, they are small children, they don't know anything. That if even an adult too also have to eat or has to eat, so they also stretch their hand out to the mother that she give them even the remaining 1. And of course, women are, wallahi, they are very compassionate generally, except maybe if they are outliers, but generally they are very compassionate. So that the woman gave that one is she split into 2, and she gave them. And by the time she left, it captured our mother's heart, Aisha's heart, that how can a woman be very benevolent and merciful to her children? And it is mentioned that the woman left that place, of course, with hunger. And what brought her to the house of Prophet is what? It's food. She was hungry. By the time she came, they gave her something. Then she needed to give everything out. And I know of course, of women that also do like this. So eventually she left. And when Prophet came, because of how it captured our mother's heart, in fact, she narrated it to the Prophet that I have seen an ajab, something that really surprised me today. And she told Prophet what has happened. And Prophet said that قَدْ أَدْخَلَ اللَّهُ بِهَا الْجَنَّةِ. No, this is the person I'm talking. It's not وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. That Allah, from what He has done, what she has done, Allah has made her enter paradise. This is specific. It's not even for everybody now. That قَدْ أَدْخَلَهُ اللَّهُ بِهَا, with that gift, what He has given her, the year that He gave, she has given it out, that Allah has made her enter paradise. I call as much as possible, and that is what we are trying to drive at. That the female children, please, we should be very close to them, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, and otherwise. They are the most difficult to train. I gave us a brother that confessed to me. They are the most difficult to train, especially when they are getting to adolescence age. So one should be very close to them. You don't leave them at the mercy of outsiders. I think inshallah we'll stop here. The other hadith is talking about the same thing. I pray Allah bless our children, and I pray Allah makes it easy for us to nurture them. Wallahu a'lam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.